it's continuing, it's badita, because of his knowledge. This is how the wise man sees the world or operates, badita, and he does it effortlessly. He falsifies it, it's become his habit. He doesn't have to make an effort, unlike the other sadhakas. He's falsifying it effortlessly, then he's a Sthitaprajna or jnana nishta. That's so. Is that the jnani?
So where does it say in the Gita about the Sthitaprajna is not a jnani?
You want to see? Look at the Gita. I'll show you.
You can't just say something off the top of your head.
The very first one of the description. But when to him all the desires in his mind have ceased. Does the jnani have a mind? Isn't ignorance identifying with the mind?
Good.
Isn't that the definition of ignorance? Isn't that the cause of suffering? If you have a mind,
Is that the
whether
only...
it's restrained or running wild, the problem is having a mind. That's the avidya, that's the adhyasa. When that's gone, there's no possibility of seeing the world. You need a mind to know the world, to know that it's false. In deep sleep, you don't know that the world is false. That's Brahman. That's moksha. Moksha is the nature of Brahman.
Is that the only spot in the Gita you can think of that it...
No, that's the very first. So, second chapter. Okay, 50 start with. Let me just read this to you. 57, 55, 54. 55, 54. So, I'm sorry, it's 55 of you. How to describe him who is steady wisdom, who is steadfast in deep meditation? Is this the Gyan? Krishna. How does he who is steady in wisdom speak? How does he sit? How does he move? So here's the description of the Sthitaprajna. The Blessed Lord said, when he leaves behind all desires, emerging from his mind, Arjuna, and is contentment in the self, by the self, then he is said to be one whose wisdom is steady. He whose mind is not agitated, this jnani has a mind that's not agitated in misfortune, who desires for pleasures has disappeared, whose passion, fear, and anger have departed, and whose meditation is steady. 1 second. Vitaragavaya krodhaha Sthitaprajna Muni Uchite. He's taking meditation Muni.
Muni, Manana.
I should just do this. Sthitadir Munihi, the one who is always reflecting. Manana Shila Munihi. A Muni is the one who has the Shila, the habit of Manana. There's a famous Puranic verse. A Muni is not one who retires to the forest, nor one who just doesn't speak words. Mauna. A Muni is one who has Manana Shilaha. Iti Muni. A Muni is one who's always doing the Manana on the Vedanta Chintana. the thinking about Vedanta, that's called the Muni. He's steady in his wisdom because he's constantly reflecting, falsifying all of this. Is this the jnani?
Try to look at the end of the chapter. I think it's
it's pretty quick. There's some of them are worse. He who is without attachment on all sides. So you can see this is a person, he has a mind, he has no attachments. When he encounters what is pleasant or unpleasant, neither rejoicing nor disliking, then his wisdom is firm. Firm wisdom. You're still a knower, and nothing is shaking that knowledge. It's here. To have firm wisdom, you have to be a pramatru. To have that jnana, you have to be a gyatru. And when he withdraws completely the senses from the objects of the senses, as a tortoise withdraws its limbs, then his wisdom stands firm. He has to withdraw his senses so that his wisdom, if his mind goes out, this Sthitaprajna will be, he'll lose his steady wisdom. The sense objects turn away from the abstinent man, but even the taste for them, but the taste remains. But even the taste turns away from me, who has seen the Supreme. The turbulent senses carry away forcibly the mind, Arjuna, even of the striving man of wisdom. So, what is that? Yatatohi api, even though striving, Purushasya, vipaschita. Vipaschita means a wise man. Even while striving, the senses, they take the mind out, Arjuna. Even of a vipaschita. Where does he take it? Vipaschita is a vipaschitas of wisdom, of learning. So, restraining all these senses, this person has to restrain his senses. Is this the jnani?
Good.
Restraining all these senses, disciplined, he should sit, the Sthitaprajna, intent on me. He whose senses are under control, his wisdom is said to be firm. For a man dwelling on the objects of the senses, this is the whole thing about the defect. Thinking about the senses, you desire them. From desire comes anger. From anger comes, you forget the whole Vedantic teaching. When you forget the Vedantic teaching, there's no discrimination. And when there's no discrimination, Atmanatma Viveka, you are destroyed. That's the krama here. So he's telling him, don't think about the objects, think about me. With the elimination of desire and hatred, even though moving amongst the objects of the senses, he who has controlled himself by self-restraint attains tranquility. In the end, this is the guy who is in the penultimate state, Naishkarma Siddhi. He's attained actionlessness in the 1850s. Siddham tu prapto yata brahma apnoti. Even after attaining this state, how that person attains Brahman. Tatshrunu. Listen to that. This is not the final jnana. Controlling the senses, thinking of me, not thinking, realizing that if I think of the objects, it'll just bring desire. In tranquility, the cessation of all sorrows is born for him. Indeed, for the tranquil-minded, the intellect at once becomes steady. So he has an intellect, he's had to pacify it through restraining it, and now his mind still has a mind, his wisdom about what is the self and what is the not self has become steady. This is the guy who has viveka. There is no wisdom in him who is uncontrolled, and there is likewise no concentration, bhavana, meditation, in him who is uncontrolled. And in him who does not concentrate, oh, it's such a bad translation. Natya ayuktasya bhavana. Nasti buddhi. There is no buddhi, discrimination, ayuktasya, for someone who's not a yogi. Ayuktasya, for someone who hasn't yoked his mind to the pratakatma, the paramatma. Ayuktasya na buddhi asti. Natya ayuktasya, and for the one who's not a yogi, bhavana. Bhavana is meditation. It also implies meditation with devotion, with the feeling of longing for that, bhavana. Natya abhavayataha, and someone who doesn't have meditation, shanti, there can be no peace. Ashantasya kuta sukham, and without peace, where is their happiness? When the mind runs after the wandering senses, then it carries away one's understanding. So this understanding that he has about himself, the Sthitaprajna, that can be carried away by the roving senses. Krishna says it, that this, let's look at the Sanskrit. Indriyani mean charatam. The charatam indriyas, the moving senses, yat mano anuvidiyate, the mind follows them. The mind, the senses go out, reveal and the mind gets interested in those objects. Anuvidiyate, anu following, existing in that following, anuvidiyate, guided by them. Tat asya harati prajnam. They carry away his prajnam. Prajnam is wisdom. Atmagyana. If Atmagyana, after you get it, the senses can carry it away again, is that the Atmagyana that we're striving for? That you can get it and lose it? That it could be overcome by the powerful senses? Is this the jnani, the prajna that he has? He has to keep his senses under control, and when the mind runs away, the wandering senses carries away his prajna, as the wind carries away a ship on the waters. Therefore, Arjuna, the wisdom of him who senses, so not only does he have a mind, he has senses, are withdrawn from the objects. Why should we withdraw, or why should someone who wants to be established in wisdom withdraw his senses from the objects? Because the mind follows the senses. And the extrovert mind is the problem, because then you desire the objects, and from you think about the objects, then you desire them, then there's anger, then you forget everything, you've destroyed, no buddhi. The whole thing is this discriminative wisdom that he has can get carried away, even after he got it. This would mean that after ignorance is sublated, it can come back. or after liberation is attained, you can fall back into bondage, or seemingly fall back. Is that the position of Vedanta or Shankara? The wisdom of him whose senses are withdrawn from the objects of the senses, his wisdom is firm. Almost finished here. The man of restraint, Yanisham Sarvabhutanam, that which is night for all beings, Tasyam, for him, Jagaritam, it is waking. Who? Samyami. Sam means samyak. Samyami means controlled. Samyak, yami, samyami. The one who is self-controlled. This yogi who has yoked his mind to Paramatma and has controlled his senses, this samyami, what is night to the ordinary people, is jagaratam, is day for him, and what is day for him is night for the others. Like the ocean, which, this is a very interesting one, like the ocean which becomes filled, all the rivers are pouring into him, but he remains unmoved and stands still. He whom all desires enter, what that means is there are desires, they arise, enter, and who remains unmoved by them. There are still may arise desires, but he's not attached to them. He's not identified with them. He's unmoved. He's falsified them. He's objectified them, whatever. Unmoved. He attains peace. Not so the man who is full of desire. So here you can see that the man who is a man of steady wisdom, he has a mind that's been rid of desire, who has senses that are controlled, who has a mind that the mind that has that wisdom can be carried away by the roving senses once again. So this is the Sthitaprajna, the condition of him. The man who abandons all desires, acts free from longing, indifferent to possessions, free from egotism, he attains peace. This is the divine state. Esha Brahmastiti Partha. This is the Brahmastiti, establishment in Brahman. If you read it properly, the man who abandons all desires, the only way to abandon all desires is to realize you're the non-dual self. Free from all longing, the only way to do it is in deep sleep. There's no other way. Indifferent to possessions, not as long as you have a body or a mind. Free from egotism, not as long as the ahamkara is there saying, I see, I hear, I know. He attains peace. So what this means is until he gets knowledge, when he's in Brahmastiti, when he attains that, having attained this, Esha Brahmastiti Partha, na ainam prapya vimuyati. Once he attains Brahmastiti, that means establishment in Brahman means being Brahman. It doesn't mean that there's a person that's established in it. In deep sleep, you're established in Brahman. If you were abiding in it, you were abiding, you'd be like a little individual in the absolute Brahman. So this Brahmastiti means Brahma Bhavati. Having attained this, you can't be deluded again. You have no mind. There's no time. There's no new thought that can come to sublate any thought. You don't know that you're Brahman. There's no thought, aham brahmasmi. Fixed in it, even at the hour of death. Naena prapya vimuyati stitva asya asyam. When he's established in this, asyam stitva, having been established in this, antakalayapi, even at the last moment. The last moment is when you realize I am Brahman. That's antakala. All end, time ends. Whether it's with the last breath or now, it will be antakale. The last breath is aham brahmasmi. Neti neti. This is the divine state, fixed in it even at the hour of the last moment, antakale. What happens? Brahma nirvanam. The nirvanam of Brahma. That means mukti, liberation, which means nothing other than remaining as Brahman. Mukti doesn't mean knowing Brahman, abiding in Brahman. Being Brahman is Brahman nirvanam, richyati. So that's the Sthitaprajna.